Hi guys, so today we have a 2020 election prediction between Bernie Sanders, he is the independent senator from the state of Vermont, and Mr. Donald Trump, who currently serves and resides in the White House in Washington, D.C., but he used to live in the state of New York. Now, let's begin with the safe states. Oh, by the way, Bernie Sanders, a lot of media and press lately because of how he has kind of rumored a lot of times that he is going to run in 2020. So we're going to go ahead and give him these safe states. So Washington, Oregon, California, Hawaii, Illinois, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, the District of Columbia, Vermont, New York, all of Maine I would now classify as safe, state of New Mexico, and I think that's it. So those are all the safe states for Mr. Sanders. So now let's go ahead and go give these safe states for Mr. Trump. Alaska, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, I can click it, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky. I'm actually not going to give Missouri over towards the Republicans. Yes, so this is where we begin. I'm going to go and give Mr. Trump some of his likely Republican states. So states like Indiana, where his vice president is from, and states like Missouri, we can all agree that those are likely to go over to the president. I forgot to give him West Virginia. That is a safe state for Mr. Trump. So next we're going to go ahead and fill in all the toss-ups. So let's start off with states that are probably going to go over and go over towards Mr. Trump. So, North Carolina, a state the Democrats have been heavily targeting. I see this as being very, very close, but at the end of the day, Bernie Sanders probably going to just come up a little bit short in the state of North Carolina. Same thing in the state of Georgia. I see Mr. Trump narrowly winning in the state of Georgia, especially given Democrats had a very strong candidate in Stacey Abrams on the gubernatorial ticket. She came up a little bit short. Some could attribute that to Kemp's alleged voter suppression, but I'm not going to get into that right now. So, another state in the South that is kind of trending a little bit more in a Republican direction, that is the state of Florida. In the Senate contest, the Republicans picked up a seat, but then in the gubernatorial contest, the Republicans held on. So there's a lot of question as to whether Florida actually is a swing state, but both of these were very, very close. The Democrat Andrew Gillum getting within 0.4%, I believe, of Ron DeSantis, and then Bill Nelson getting even closer to Republican Rick Scott. He got, I believe, within 0.2% of Rick Scott. So, yes, but I still think that with Bernie Sanders' appeal, he's not going to get hammered like Clinton did with rural voters, rural and older voters. So I actually do see this being extremely close, but I actually see Bernie Sanders winning in the state of Florida very narrowly. So we've gone through most of the South. There's one more state, the state of Virginia. I see this one likely to go over towards Bernie Sanders in the likely Democratic column. Democrats, they did quite well in Virginia this past year. They picked up Barbara Comstock's seat. They picked up, what's his name, someone Scott. But they picked up the 2nd District, and they also picked up Dave Bratt's seat. He was famous because he actually unseated House Majority Leader Eric Cantor in the Tea Party wave of 2014. Now he's lost to CIA Director, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I'm not sure. But Abigail Spanberger, actually took his seat. So, very good news for Democrats in the state of Virginia. I see that one being in the likely Democratic column. Now let's go over to the states of Iowa and Ohio. These are going to be two very closely watched states in 2020, but both of them probably have a slight Republican lean. Ohio, they elected a Republican governor. The Democrat was meant to win. All of the competitive districts went over towards their Republican incumbents. Sherrod Brown won re-election in the Senate, but not by as wide a margin as was expected. So there's a lot of question as to whether Ohio actually is a swing state. And I would argue it really depends on the candidate. If Democrats run a neutral candidate, like a generic Democrat, or if they run a bad Democrat, Ohio is going to go to the president. If they run a strong candidate like Biden or Sanders, I see it being very close, but for Bernie Sanders, I see this one ever so narrowly creeping into Mr. Trump's column. Now, in the state of Iowa, this is going to be another hotly contested race. Democrats do feel a bit optimistic about Iowa. They picked up 2 congressional districts in the state of Iowa, but they fell short in taking the statewide gubernatorial contest. So one could make the argument that Republicans do better in the statewide contests and Democrats do better in the kind of more local contests in the state of Iowa. So yeah, I see this one narrowly going towards Mr. Trump. I think that Bernie Sanders has a much better appeal to rural white working class voters than Clinton did or even Obama did. But I still see that those white working class voters still coming out and supporting Mr. Trump. So we've gone through all the states in the South and also these 2 Rust Belt states. So next we're going to go over and look at the Rust Belt. So this is an area Mr. Trump overperformed in 2016, but all of these states have been trending Democratic since then. They're not satisfied with Mr. Trump's performance, and Bernie Sanders has that white working class appeal. Remember, he came closer than people expected in Pennsylvania in the primary against Clinton. He upsetted Clinton in Michigan. He won by 1 or 2 points, whereas the poll said he would lose by 15 to 20. He won easily in Wisconsin and he won in Minnesota. So all of those states are trending more Democratic, and not just in a Democratic way, but towards Bernie Sanders and his revolution. And I see, for that reason, Minnesota going into the likely Democratic column, Wisconsin going into the leaning Democratic column, Michigan moving into the likely Democratic column, if I can get it to work, and the state of Pennsylvania going into the leaning Democratic column for that reason. And with that, Bernie Sanders actually becomes the next president of the United States because of those Rust Belt calls. Now, I don't think necessarily it will be very hard for Sanders to win in these states. There's still a big Trump base, but there's a lot of people who voted for Trump hoping for change, but he didn't deliver on that change. At least they think that, and for that reason, I'm moving all of them into the leaning and likely Democratic column, likely for Minnesota and Michigan, and leaning for Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. So let's just recap. We're at 288 electoral votes for Bernie Sanders. He's become the next president of the United States. 219 for Mr. Trump. So far, Bernie Sanders, he has flipped Florida, he's flipped Pennsylvania, flipped Michigan, and flipped Wisconsin, so he's flipped 4 states. Now, in the state of Arizona, that's where we're going next. I see this one ever so narrowly creeping into Mr. Trump's column. Now, I think that Bernie Sanders will probably just come up a little bit short here, but I do see him carrying the states of Nevada and the state of Colorado by pretty healthy margins. Clinton was able to do it. I see no reason how Sanders would not be able to win in those 2 states. Very similar Democratic demographics. They've been trending Democratic. So yeah, now let's go up to the state of Maine. I'm really torn about this 2nd district. When I was going through the map before I actually recorded it, I had this one narrowly going to Bernie Sanders. But now I'm kind of second guessing myself because Trump won here by 10 points. That's going to be hard for Sanders to make up. But at the end of the day, I feel like his appeal with the state of Vermont, his northeastern appeal, would narrowly carry him to victory, ever so narrowly here. In the state of Maine, New Hampshire, that won't be very difficult for him to take. He lives in neighbouring Vermont. So this is the final electoral map. 308 electoral votes with four state pickups and a congressional district pickup in the state of Maine. Oh, I totally forgot about Nebraska's 2nd district. I see this one being so close. But I think that it could narrowly go to Mr. Trump because one of my reasoning behind this, Kara Eastman, she was a progressive candidate who was the Democratic candidate. She came up a bit short in this red district, however, and she was a very similar candidate to Mr. Sanders. So kind of for that reason alone, I see the Nebraska 2nd district narrowly going towards the president in this case. So that's it for today's video, guys. 380 electoral votes for Bernie Sanders, 230 for Mr. Trump. That's it for today's video, guys. Thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I will see you all in the next one.